On today's video, we will be discussing the products of the Chaos Engine. Hi, my name is Eduardo Hernandez. I am the creator of the newest theory in the origin of life, Emergent Chemical Evolution. I'm also the author of the book by the same name, Emergent Chemical Evolution, available on Amazon and all online retailers. So let's get started. The products of the Chaos Engine. Well, first of all, I need to clear up something. I consider a fundamental part of the Chaos Engine is also the heavy bombardment itself. The impacts caused by the heavy bombardment as demonstrated by the experiments by Professor Blank with her high impact experimentations with amino acids in water, prove that during the heavy bombardment there had to be millions upon millions of polyamino acid chains being created by these impacts all the time. I mean, according to scientists, astronomers, the heavy bombardment, it was impacts every couple of seconds for millions of years. So that alone would have produced a high number of polyamino acids string together, polypeptides, because once you have two amino acids, you have a peptide bond. There was millions upon trillions of these available in the oceans at that time. So the currents passing through the pH gradients is the core of the Chaos Engine. But the products that it produced are not highly specific, because that would not be conducive to emergent chemical evolution and for life to initiate. You need, in any experiment, in any system that you're trying to produce novel products, novel reactions, you need something that can produce random chemical components that would have random chemical reactions. And there's no better system for that than polyamino acids. I mean, that's why life uses it today. That's what, to me, powers evolution. These polyamino acids, depending on their configuration, are the same chemical components, but if you rearrange them, they have a different chemical reaction. I mean, you can't ask for any better system to produce novel reactions with the same products. You don't need to have these exotic inorganic compounds to be present at all times for these rare chemical reactions to occur. The thing that the Chaos Engine does, which makes it inevitable for life to come in a system like the Earth, is that it readily repeats the same conditions with the same components over and over again. In the scenarios of origin of life scientists research now, they're using exotic, rare, inorganic compounds to try to make organic compounds in extremely exotic conditions. That is not conducive to creating multiple tries of chemical reactions to occur and allow life to emerge from that system. It's just, again, untenable to me that these systems, to me, would either through time run out of material that's unreplenished, whereas in the Chaos Engine is being replenished all the time by the heavy bombardment, not only with the impacts creating more polyamino acids from the amino acids present in the water, but the chondrite type of meteorites bringing more organic material all the time, of which a large quantity is amino acids of 70 different types. So, the chaos engine to me is a much better solution to create multiple versions of polyamino acids that would, depending on which pH it would find itself, conform, become rigid in a sense, where they will take a particular shape, that shape only at that certain pH, depending on the polyamino acids. It will produce multiple different types of polyamino acids, different sequences, different lengths. So these different sequences and different lengths would take different conformations depending on the pH, which is what we see them do now. And therefore, the chaos engine would have multiple quote-unquote chemical reactions available to it, because these multiple polyamino acid chains of different types would take on different conformations, therefore creating different reactive centers with different chemical properties that would allow that polyamino acid to then, what we see them do in life today now, is work on another amino acid and transform it into something different, something possibly useful for the origin of life. And I am of the camp that is RNA was the initiation of life. Well, I guess I'm creating a new camp, because the chaos engine created components that allowed RNA to be produced. Random, uninformed, non-information containing RNA segments. That is very important. That is the start of the origin of life, is the chaos engine producing components that would then turn around and produce random segments of RNA segments. So the chaos engine, like I said, would be running, like I've said in previous videos, would be running nonstop for millions and billions of years. This system would create, it wouldn't be even exotic chemical components, because it would produce so many of it that would be the norm. The norm would be the water infested with polypeptides reacting with other amino acids, creating multiple organic compounds that would be beneficial to the initiation of life. So, you could have the oceans teeming with molecules that would be beneficial to the emergence of life. Unlike these other systems that these modern researchers of origin of life are doing, they're localized to volcanic vents. They're based on limited inorganic material, non-replenishable, because they were supposedly brought here by meteorites, and you would find them in some, but not all in mass quantities, at least not the quantities that you would find amino acids. So, and they're highly volatile inorganic material. They would have the ability to react with other inorganic compounds, whereas amino acids are fairly loyal to each other, so to speak. They tend to react with each other, forming what origin of life researchers have said for years, that they would form random, non-reactive random chains, which, I'm sorry, with amino acids being the way they are, they form regular structures. They would readily bond with each other, readily interact with each other. That, to me, lays a foundation for a system that is mimicked today in life, in different life forms of different animal kingdoms or kingdoms of life. You find that they have different sequenced polyamino acids creating similar in shape enzymes that do the same organic reaction. So you have, well, my go-to example is E. coli in humans. You know, E. coli is a very simple organism. It creates multiple large enzymes out of multiple small polypeptide chains. That is, to me, a more simplistic manner of creating enzymes, whereas us humans and higher life forms use one large macro molecule of enzymes. So my point being is that this system has survived in life. The chaos engine is a means of the environment organizing and creating a system that would produce random sequences of polypeptides that will allow them to have more of a chance. Excuse me. I have to edit that out. More of a chance of creating the necessary components. It's a system that continuously runs, continuously produce random polypeptide products that would then again take those polypeptide products, and that's my daughter's notifications. I'm glad she listens to my type of music, but right now is not the time. Hello? Can you please stop? Okay. Anyway, where was I? So, again, the chaos engine will not only produce these multiple random chains of polypeptides, it also take those same multiple chains of polypeptides and run them through different pH gradients. That's important because then it gives all of these polypeptide amino acids the opportunity to take a conformation that will allow it to interact with the complementary amino acid chain and therefore be able to take a third or fourth or who knows how many other chains and amino acids to react them together, and for those polyamino acids to get together and find themselves in a state, a pH gradient or a pH state that will allow them to take the conformation, lock together, and also envelop a compatible amino acid and allow it to react and make a precursor molecule conducive to the production of RNA, for the production also of other types of biomolecules, ATP, NADH, any other type of molecules that we would find that would be conducive to reactions that are also conducive to the emergence of life. So those would be some of the products. Of course, the most important being RNA eventually being produced. Again, we have 20 different examples of enzymes with different sequences that are up to 45% different in their sequences that allow different life forms to produce to replicate RNA. So these mathematical probabilities that they calculate based on one enzyme, I think is untenable. They're looking at it wrong on the sequence. What it is that polyamino acids form regular structures, and that's what needs to be looked at that level. The probability of polyamino acids getting together and forming repeatable structures that again would form repeatable reactive regions is not in their calculations. If it is, then it wasn't readily espoused in the articles I read. So they only spoke of the specific sequence that they were looking at. They were calculating for a specific sequence to be made, which is not necessary. I'm going to have to make another video on that, on why it wasn't necessary for a specific sequence to be produced. There are multiple, and I'm talking millions of opportunities for the same molecule based on amino acids to be produced, and would readily be produced in the chaos engine. Let's start with the enzyme produced by E. coli. E. coli uses 12 different small polyamino acid chains to create one larger enzyme to work on one amino acid, to convert that amino acid into a precursor of RNA. The probability of the amino acids in the reactive region, the probability of those taking a conformation that is repeatable for that, I'll calculate, is at least 470 million times. Understand that in a reactive region, you have three-dimensional space, and those amino acids could arrange themselves in reference to each other in the same orientation in 3D space. They would have 470 million opportunities to take the conformation and have that reactive site work. And that is shown with the enzyme I spoke of. That was 20 different versions of it. What those enzymes show is that all the structural sequences can be random, but the ones that were important were the amino acids found in the reactive region. Those coincided. They coincided in their location in the reactive region. So that shows that what I'm saying is correct. The chaos engine would have 470 million opportunities to produce that one reactive region that would create the precursor to RNA. which it does by transforming an amino acid, which again was readily available at that time. So I hope that convinced you of the products produced by the chaos engine, and see that with the convergence of the forces that were available on Earth at that time, the chaos engine would have emerged and readily produced the components necessary for the origin of life. Thank you very much. See you next video.